It was a land of wild beauty, a place where freedom was as essential as the air breathed. And in this rugged landscape lived a horse named Ghost. She was a mustang, a creature as untamed and spirited as the land itself. Her coat was the colour of moonlight, her mane and tail like spun silver, and her eyes held the wisdom of the wild. She belonged to the Double Bar Ranch, a place she knew well, but her spirit was that of a wanderer. And one crisp autumn morning, Ghost made a choice that would shake the foundations of the ranch and set her on a path of 2 long years of mystery. She vanished. The gates were secure, the fences strong, but Ghost was gone. The ranch hands searched for days, their calls echoing through the canyons, but there was no sign. It was as if she had dissolved into the very air she breathed. For the ranch owners, the Johnsons, it was a profound loss. Ghost wasn't just livestock. She was part of the family, a symbol of the wild spirit they cherished. They grieved, but they also held onto a flicker of hope, a whisper that maybe, just maybe, she'd find her way back. The seasons turned. Autumn's fiery hues gave way to winter's silent snows, which melted into spring's vibrant greens, and then the heat of summer. 2 years passed, 2 long years of unanswered questions and fading hope. The memory of the runaway Mustang became a legend, a bittersweet tale told around campfires. The Johnsons had tried to move on, to fill the void Ghost had left, but the wildness she represented was hard to forget. Then, one ordinary afternoon, as the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the familiar pastures, a lone rider spotted something in the distance. A horse. It was far away, almost a mirage against the golden grasses, but as the rider drew closer, a gasp escaped their lips. It couldn't be. Could it? The silhouette, the way it moved, the unmistakable grace. It was a Mustang, and she looked remarkably familiar. As the horse came into full view, the rider's heart hammered against their ribs. It was Ghost. She was back. But the reunion, the one they had dreamed of for 2 agonizing years, was not just about Ghost's return. It was about the incredible surprise that trotted faithfully by her side, a surprise that spoke of resilience, of survival, and of the enduring power of the wild. The story of Ghost's return was about to unfold, and it was more extraordinary than anyone could have ever imagined. The Double Bar Ranch was more than just a business. It was a legacy. Nestled in the heart of Montana, it was a place where the Johnson family had carved out a life amidst the rugged beauty of the mountains and plains. For generations, they had raised cattle, tended to the land, and lived by the rhythm of the seasons. And for Evelyn Johnson, the current matriarch, the ranch was her entire world. It was where she had grown up, where she had fallen in love, and where she had raised her own children. Her connection to the land was deep, a bond forged in hard work and a profound respect for nature. But it was Ghost, a wild Mustang mare, who had captured Evelyn's heart in a way no other creature ever had. Evelyn had a special gift with horses, an intuitive understanding that transcended words. She could read their moods, their fears, and their desires with an uncanny accuracy. And when she first saw Ghost, a yearling with eyes that held the untamed spirit of the wild, Evelyn knew she had to have her. Ghost was a beauty, even then. Her coat, a shimmering silver grey, seemed to capture the moonlight, and her build was that of a true athlete, lean and powerful. But it was her spirit that drew Evelyn in. Ghost was not a horse that could be easily broken or tamed. She moved with an independent grace, her ears always pricked, her gaze surveying her surroundings with a wild intelligence. Evelyn spent months patiently working with Ghost, earning her trust one small step at a time. There were no harsh words, no forceful commands. Instead, there were gentle hands, soft whispers, and an abundance of patience. Evelyn understood that Ghost was not a possession, but a partnership. She wanted Ghost to be a part of the ranch, but on her own terms. And slowly, miraculously, Ghost began to respond. She learned to accept the halter, to be brushed, and eventually to be ridden. But even then, a part of her remained wild. She would sometimes stand at the highest point of the pasture, gazing out at the distant mountains, a look of longing in her intelligent eyes. Evelyn recognized that look. It was the call of the wild, a siren song that Ghost, despite her growing bond with Evelyn, could never entirely ignore. She was a Mustang after all, and the spirit of freedom ran deep in her veins. The ranch hands too had a fondness for Ghost. They saw her spirit, her strength and her beauty. They admired her spirit, and they often spoke of her as if she were a wild queen of the plains. They would watch her gallop across the fields, her silver mane flying, and feel a sense of awe. She was a reminder of the untamed beauty that still existed in their world. There was a sense of pride in knowing that such a magnificent creature was a part of their lives, even if it was on the edges of their control. They knew that Ghost would always be a force of nature, a creature that could not be entirely contained. And so, life on the double bar ranch continued, a harmonious blend of human endeavor and the wild spirit of its inhabitants. Ghost was a cherished part of that tapestry, a wild heart that beat in time with the land. But even the most beautiful tapestries can have threads that unexpectedly unravel, leading to a story far richer and more complex than initially imagined. The morning Ghost disappeared was like any other. The sun had risen over the snow-capped peaks to the east, painting the sky in hues of rose and gold. The air was crisp, carrying the sharp scent of pine from the surrounding forests. The ranch was stirring, barn doors creaked open, the clang of metal buckets echoed, and the low murmur of voices filled the air as the ranch hands prepared for the day's work. Evelyn Johnson, as always, was up before dawn. She moved through the house with a quiet purpose, the scent of brewing coffee and wood smoke a familiar comfort. Her day began with a visit to the stables, a ritual that had been a part of her life for as long as she could remember. She loved the quiet intimacy of the pre-dawn barn, the soft nickers of the horses, the rustle of straw. It was a time of peace, a moment to connect with the creatures who were so central to her existence. She checked on each horse, her hands running over their warm backs, her eyes assessing their well-being. She spoke to them in low, soothing tones, her touch a silent language of care and understanding. When she reached Ghost's stall, her heart swelled with a familiar warmth. Ghost was a magnificent mare, her silver coat gleaming even in the dim light. She stood tall and proud, her eyes bright and intelligent. Evelyn always lingered a little longer with Ghost, drawn to the untamed spirit that still flickered within her. She admired Ghost's strength, her proud bearing, and the subtle tension that always seemed to hum beneath her skin, a constant reminder of her wild heritage. Evelyn knew that Ghost wasn't like the other ranch horses. She had a spirit that yearned for something more, something beyond the confines of the pasture fence. Evelyn had accepted this, cherishing the time they had and understanding that Ghost's wildness was a part of her beauty. That morning, Ghost was restless. She paced her stall, her hooves clattering softly against the wooden floor. Her ears twitched constantly, swiveling towards the faint sounds of the outside world. Evelyn noticed her mare's unease. "What is it, girl?" she murmured, stroking Ghost's powerful neck. "Something bothering you?" Ghost whinnied softly, a low, almost mournful sound, and nudged Evelyn's shoulder with her head, her breath warm against Evelyn's cheek. It wasn't fear that Evelyn sensed in the mare, but rather an intense, almost electric anticipation. It was as if Ghost was listening to a call that only she could hear, a silent summons from the vast wilderness that lay beyond the ranch's boundaries. Evelyn watched her, a knot of concern tightening in her stomach. She had always known that Ghost's spirit was a fragile thing, a wild flame that could be easily extinguished if not handled with care. But this morning, Ghost's restlessness felt different. It felt like a prelude, a subtle shift in the atmosphere that hinted at an impending change. She made a mental note to keep a closer eye on Ghost throughout the day, a nagging feeling that something was about to happen. Little did she know just how profound that premonition would prove to be. She gave Ghost one last gentle pat, her hand lingering on the mare's sleek coat. "Be a good girl today," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "We'll talk later." With that, Evelyn turned and left the stable, the image of Ghost's bright, alert eyes imprinted on her mind. She stepped out into the brightening morning, the cool air, a welcome contrast to the warmth of the stable. The ranch was alive with the sounds of activity now. The air was filled with the scent of hay, manure, and the faint aroma of coffee drifting from the ranch house kitchen. The ranch hands were moving with purpose, their boots crunching on the gravel paths. Evelyn greeted them with a nod and a brief smile, her mind still on Ghost. She walked towards the main house, her thoughts a whirlwind of mundane tasks and the lingering unease about her prized Mustang. She had no idea that by the time the sun began to set, her world would be irrevocably changed, and Ghost would be nothing more than a phantom, a ghost in the wind. The day had begun with a sense of normalcy, but the threads of fate were already being woven, and the path ahead was leading to an unexpected and heart-wrenching departure. The silence that would soon descend upon Ghost's stall was a void that would echo for years to come. The routine of the ranch was a well-oiled machine. Each ranch hand had their specific duties, their roles clearly defined. They were a team, working in unison to keep the double bar running smoothly. There was Jed, the seasoned foreman, a man whose quiet demeanor hid a wealth of knowledge and a deep understanding of the land and its animals. Then there was young Billy, eager and strong, always ready to tackle any task, his enthusiasm infectious. And Maria, who managed the domestic side of the ranch, ensuring everyone was fed and cared for, her kitchen a warm and welcoming hub. Evelyn was the heart of it all, overseeing everything, her keen eye missing no detail. That particular morning, the focus was on rounding up a section of the herd that had strayed further afield than usual. It was a task that required skill, patience, and a good understanding of the horses. Evelyn often rode with them on such occasions, not to direct, but to observe, her presence a silent reassurance. She chose Ghost for the roundup, a decision she would later replay in her mind 1,000 times. Ghost was an excellent riding horse, sure-footed and responsive, her Mustang spirit making her agile and quick. As they rode out, the sun was climbing higher, its warmth spreading across the vast expanse. The sky was a brilliant cloudless blue, the kind of sky that promised a perfect day. Ghost was magnificent under Evelyn. She moved with a fluid power, her strides long and graceful, her spirit seeming to harmonize with the open country. Evelyn felt a familiar exhilaration, the kind that only came from riding a horse with such a wild heart. They worked for hours, the rhythmic sound of hoofbeats and the occasional lowing of cattle filling the air. The other ranch hands rode their own horses, but many kept an eye on Ghost and Evelyn, marveling at their partnership. Ghost seemed to be enjoying herself, her energy boundless, her focus sharp. She responded to Evelyn's every subtle cue, a testament to the bond they shared. But as the afternoon wore on, a subtle shift occurred. The wind began to pick up, carrying with it the scent of an approaching storm, though the sky remained clear. Ghost's ears began to twitch more frequently, her head lifting as if sensing something on the breeze. Evelyn felt it too, a change in the air, a tension that seemed to emanate from Ghost herself. Ghost became more skittish, her movements less fluid, more urgent. She would tense at sudden noises, her eyes darting towards the distant jagged peaks that marked the edge of their territory. Evelyn tried to soothe her, murmuring reassurances, her hand stroking Ghost's neck. "Easy, girl, it's just the wind." But Ghost was not easily soothed. Her restlessness grew, her body vibrating, with an energy that seemed too powerful to be contained. She began to pull against the reins, her desire to run, to flee, becoming palpable. Evelyn knew this feeling well. It was the call of the wild, a primal urge that even the most domesticated horse could feel. But with Ghost, it was amplified, a powerful force that seemed to speak directly to her Mustang soul. They were nearing the edge of the pasture, a boundary Ghost had never crossed before under saddle. It was a rougher terrain, leading into the foothills where the pines grew thicker and the canyons deepened. Jed, riding a little distance away, noticed Ghost's agitation. He signaled to Evelyn, a silent question in his eyes. Evelyn gave a slight shake of her head, a gesture that said she was managing. But inside, she was worried. Ghost was pushing her limits, her wild instincts overwhelming her training. They were on the verge of something unknown. As they rounded a bend, a strong gust of wind swept through the trees, carrying with it the distant cry of a hawk. It was this sound, perhaps, or the sudden surge of the wind, that finally tipped the balance. Ghost reared, a sudden violent movement that startled Evelyn. Evelyn, an experienced rider, managed to stay seated, but her grip on the reins tightened instinctively. Ghost didn't hesitate. With a powerful surge, she bolted. Evelyn tried to guide her, to regain control, but Ghost was moving with a speed and determination she had never witnessed before. She was a silver blur against the landscape, her powerful legs devouring the ground. The other riders shouted, surprised and concerned, but they were quickly left behind. Ghost was running with a singular purpose, her destination unknown, her spirit set free. Evelyn felt a pang of fear, but also a strange sense of awe. She was riding a force of nature, a creature completely consumed by her own wild will. She held on, trying to steer Ghost away from dangerous terrain, but it was a losing battle. Ghost was running towards the wild, towards the unknown, and there was nothing Evelyn could do to stop her. As they galloped further and further from the ranch, Evelyn could see the vast, untamed wilderness opening up before them. It was a beautiful, terrifying sight. And then, with a final, powerful burst of speed, Ghost veered sharply, disappearing into a dense thicket of trees at the base of the foothills. Evelyn fought to rein her in, but Ghost was no longer listening. She was gone, swallowed by the wilderness, leaving Evelyn alone. The echo of hoofbeats fading into the vast silence. The realization hit Evelyn with the force of a physical blow. Ghost was gone. She had run away. The wild spirit that Evelyn had so admired, the spirit she had tried to nurture and understand, had finally claimed her. Tears streamed down Evelyn's face, blurring the image of the empty space where Ghost had been. The sun continued to shine, the birds continued to sing, but for Evelyn, the world had suddenly gone dark. The legend of the Runaway Mustang had just begun, a story born from a moment of wild freedom and a profound sense of loss. The ranch hands found Evelyn, shaken but unharmed, and the search began. But it was a futile effort. Ghost had vanished as completely as if she had never existed, leaving behind only the lingering scent of her wild spirit and a gaping hole in the heart of the Double Bar Ranch. The 2 years that followed would be a testament to that loss, a period of longing and unanswered questions. The initial searches were desperate and extensive. Every canyon, every ridge, every watering hole was scoured. Ranch hands, family, and even concerned neighbors rode tirelessly, their voices hoarse from calling Ghost's name. Days turned into weeks, and hope began to wane. The vastness of the Montana wilderness was a formidable adversary, capable of swallowing secrets whole. It seemed Ghost had simply dissolved into the rugged landscape, leaving no trace, no clue to her whereabouts. The 2 years that followed Ghost's disappearance were a period of quiet mourning and enduring mystery for the Johnson family. Evelyn, in particular, felt the absence acutely. Ghost had been more than just a horse. She was a symbol of the untamed spirit Evelyn cherished, a living embodiment of the wild heart of Montana. The ranch continued its daily operations, the rhythm of life a comforting, albeit melancholic presence. The other horses filled the stables, their familiar presence a constant reminder of what was lost. Evelyn would often find herself gazing out at the pastures, her eyes scanning the horizon, a faint, lingering hope that Ghost might somehow reappear. The story of the Runaway Mustang became a local legend, a tale whispered around campfires and shared with new ranch hands. Some said she had joined a wild herd, her Mustang spirit finally free. Others believed she had met a tragic end, lost to the harshness of the wilderness. but no one knew for sure. The mystery of Ghost's fate hung heavy in the air, a constant unresolved question. The ranch hands, too, spoke of her with a mixture of sadness and respect. They remembered her power, her beauty, and the inexplicable pull she had on Evelyn's heart. They had witnessed her spirit first-hand on that fateful day, and they understood the depth of the loss. Jed, the foreman, would sometimes stand by the fence line where Ghost had last been seen, his gaze lost in the distance, a silent acknowledgement of the wildness that had claimed her. The seasons turned, marking the passage of time with their predictable cycles. Autumn arrived with its crisp air and vibrant foliage, followed by the hushed blanket of winter snows. Spring burst forth with renewed life, and the long, hot days of summer returned. And all the while, Ghost remained a phantom, a cherished memory that refused to fade. Evelyn had made peace with the idea that she might never see Ghost again. She focused on the other horses, pouring her energy into their care and training, but a small, almost subconscious part of her still held out hope, a flicker of belief that the wild could on occasion give back what it had taken. Then, one late summer afternoon, everything changed. The sky was a brilliant, unblemished blue, the kind of day that felt ordinary, almost mundane. The air was warm, carrying the sweet scent of wild timothy and the faint aroma of dust kicked up by grazing cattle. Evelyn was out on a leisurely ride, not for any specific task, but simply to feel the sun on her face and the familiar rhythm of her horse's gait beneath her. She was riding along the western edge of the ranch, a more remote area, seldom visited except by those looking for stray cattle or exploring the wilder reaches. The land here was more rugged, the pastures giving way to steeper inclines and rocky outcrops. As she crested a small rise, her horse slowed, its ears pricked forward. Evelyn followed its gaze. In the distance, silhouetted against the golden grasses of the rolling hills, was a sight that made her heart leap into her throat. A horse. It was a lone Mustang, moving with a distinctive, almost regal bearing. Evelyn's breath hitched the silver-grey coat, the elegant build, the way it held its head high. It was unmistakable. Ghost. She was back. A wave of disbelief, followed by an overwhelming surge of emotion, washed over Evelyn. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring the image of the horse she thought she would never see again. Her voice, when she finally found it, was a shaky whisper. "Ghost?" she murmured, her heart pounding. The Mustang paused, its head turning slowly, as if hearing a familiar sound carried on the breeze. It took a few tentative steps towards Evelyn, its movements cautious but not fearful. As the distance closed, Evelyn could see the mare clearly. She looked different. Thinner, perhaps, her coat a little rougher, but undeniably Ghost. And then Evelyn saw it. Tucked close to Ghost's side, almost hidden by the mare's powerful flank, was another figure. A foal. A small, wobbly-legged creature, its coat a dappled grey, its eyes wide with curiosity. Ghost had returned, and she had returned, with a miracle. The reunion was a slow, cautious dance. Ghost approached, her silver coat shimmering in the afternoon sun. She moved with a newfound grace, her wildness tempered by a mother's protectiveness. The foal, a tiny replica of its mother in spirit, followed closely, its legs still finding their footing on the uneven ground. Evelyn dismounted slowly, her movements deliberate, her heart overflowing with a complex mix of joy, relief, and wonder. She spoke softly, her voice choked with emotion, using the same gentle tones she had used with Ghost all those years ago. "Ghost? Oh, Ghost, you're back. You're really back." The mare watched her, her intelligent eyes seeming to recognize Evelyn, to acknowledge their shared history. She nudged Ghost's side gently with her nose, encouraging the foal forward. The little one, sensing Evelyn's calm presence, took a few more tentative steps, its large eyes fixed on the stranger. Evelyn knelt, extending a hand, palm open, a gesture of peace. The foal hesitated, then with a surge of bravery, took a few more steps and sniffed her fingers. It was a moment suspended in time, a silent acknowledgement between a woman a returned wild spirit, and the new life she had brought forth. Ghost stood watch, a silent guardian, her presence a testament to the resilience of the wild. Evelyn felt a profound sense of gratitude. Ghost had not only survived the harsh wilderness for 2 long years, but she had thrived. She had found a way to live, to endure, and to create new life. The foal was a symbol of that endurance, a testament to the strength and adaptability of these wild creatures. Evelyn knew that Ghost was still a wild horse. She hadn't returned to be tamed or to live in a stall again. She had returned, perhaps, to share her story, to show them the miracle she carried. The foal, a living embodiment of hope, represented the continuation of the wild spirit. Evelyn could see the pride in Ghost's posture, the quiet strength in her gaze. This wasn't just a return, it was a triumphant declaration of survival. The foal, as yet unnamed, was clearly strong and healthy, a vibrant addition to the wild tapestry of the Montana landscape. It was a powerful reminder that life finds a way, even in the most challenging environments. The Johnsons would never be able to fully comprehend the journey Ghost had undertaken. What trials had she faced? What dangers had she overcome? How had she managed to not only survive, but to bring a foal into the world in the unforgiving wilderness? These questions would remain unanswered, adding to the mystique of Ghost's return. But the presence of the foal spoke volumes. It spoke of Ghost's innate strength, her fierce, maternal instincts, and her deep connection to the wild. It was a story of survival against all odds, a testament to the untamed spirit that resided within her. Evelyn felt a deep respect for the mare, a renewed understanding of the power and beauty of true freedom. Ghost had chosen to return, not to captivity, but to the open land, bringing with her the fruit of her wild existence. The foal was a living symbol of that choice, a promise of continuation. The decision of what to do next was immediate and unspoken. Evelyn knew that Ghost and her foal belonged to the wild. Their return was not an invitation to be brought back into the ranch's fold, but a brief, miraculous interlude. She watched as Ghost, with a final lingering look at Evelyn, turned and began to trot away, her foal gamely keeping pace beside her. Evelyn didn't call out. She didn't try to follow. She simply watched, a bittersweet ache in her chest, as the silver mare and her precious offspring melted back into the vast, sun-drenched landscape. They moved with an effortless grace, disappearing over the next rise, becoming one with the rolling hills and the endless sky. It was a profound moment, a lesson in acceptance and the enduring power of the wild. Evelyn understood that some spirits are not meant to be owned, only admired. Ghost had come back to share her miracle, a gift to the land and to the people who had once cherished her. And in doing so, she had reinforced the very wildness that had drawn Evelyn to her in the first place. The mystery of her 2 years in the wilderness remained, but it was now a story tinged with triumph, not tragedy. Ghost had not just survived, she had thrived, creating new life against all odds. The image of the silver mare and her dappled foal against the backdrop of the majestic Montana wilderness was seared into Evelyn's memory. It was a vision of pure, unadulterated freedom. She knew that this was not goodbye, but rather a profound acknowledgement of the circle of life, of the wild heart that beat within the land. Ghost's story was a reminder that some creatures are born to roam, to follow the ancient paths of their ancestors, and to carry on the legacy of the wild. And sometimes, just sometimes, the wild might grace us with a glimpse of its enduring magic, a fleeting moment of connection that leaves an indelible mark on the soul. The foal, a symbol of hope and continuity, would grow strong, a testament to Ghost's resilience and the enduring spirit of the wild mustangs. Evelyn turned her horse, a sense of peace settling over her. The ranch still held its familiar comfort, but it was now imbued with a new understanding, a deeper appreciation for the untamed beauty that Ghost embodied. The story was a reminder that the greatest gifts are often found in unexpected places, and that sometimes letting go is the truest form of love. Ghost had returned, not to be captured, but to remind them all of the magic that exists beyond the fences, in the heart of the wild. And in that profound realization, Evelyn found a new kind of peace, a deep respect for the untamed spirit that had once again touched her life, leaving behind a legacy of wonder and a healthy, vibrant new life. This incredible story of Ghost's return and the miraculous foal she brought with her is a powerful testament to the resilience of nature and the enduring spirit of the wild. It reminds us that even after hardship and loss, life can find a way to flourish, and that the bonds we form can echo across time and distance. Ghost's journey is a legend now, a whispered tale of survival and a testament to the untamed heart of the Montana plains. It speaks to the deep connection between humans and animals and the respect we owe to creatures that carry the wildness of the world within them. Have you ever had an experience with an animal that felt truly magical, like a sign from the wild itself? Share your stories in the comments below. We'd love to hear them. If this tale of Ghost's incredible return and the surprise she carried touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up. And to make sure you don't miss out on more inspiring stories from the heart of nature and the spirit of the wild, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Your support helps us bring these incredible tales to you. Thank you for watching.